You know, this is just a off-the-hand type of talk about percentage and decimal points and the differences between the two. Uh, I get this every year, every semester, where a student will not know how to go from percent to decimal point or from decimal point to percent. Even though it's taught in math classes, it should have been something that was taught in uh, elementary school math class, I believe, is when I first started learning about it. And the way we used to do it was, you take a percentage and you'd move it over two places. So like if you had 25%, and they'd say that all you do is just move it over to two places, and the decimal point would go right there, and so it's 0.25. But I think nowadays what they teach in math is that you take a 25% and you divide by 100 to get 0.25, or to go from 0.25 to percent, you multiply by 100, going the other direction. I find this to be a little bit confusing, so I'm going to do my bend on it. Okay, so let's start again. Let's take the 25%. This came up in a class many semesters ago, a long time ago, when I asked how do you do the thing of taking 25%, make it into a decimal point, and the student said you divide by 100, and I was a bit perplexed by it, maybe wrongly so at the time, but I was perplexed. But I said, where does that 100 come from? And the student couldn't answer it. I said, but did the 100 appear out of thin air? Where did the 100 come from? Where is it? Where did it go? And the student couldn't say. And so, who told you that you divide by 100? And she said, well, my math teacher. Then, of course, my first reaction was, well, your math teacher's an idiot. But anyway, I decided, you know what, I really need to get down to the bottom of this and figure out where percent originated from. What does it mean? How did it start? So I went to my good friend's Wikipedia and I looked it up. So here's what Wikipedia said. And I'm paraphrasing here because I'm doing it from memory and it's been a long time since I've looked at it. But I think roughly somewhere in the 1400s is when it was being used. And it was used in commerce, okay? So when people were talking about doing business, they'd wind up writing this whole thing out as 25 per 1 cent. Okay? And then they did the fancy do and double hash, that kind of thing. So 25 per 1 cent. Because I kept thinking percent usually means per penny. Okay? That I assumed that's what it would, but I wanted to make sure. And sure enough, 25 per 1 cent is per 1 penny. Okay? So if I were to do 25 per 1 cent, then how many pennies do I have? I got 25 pennies. How do you write 25 pennies? Well, 0.25. That's how you write 25 cents. Okay, there's 0.25. So really the 25% means 25 cents, or 25 per 1 cent. Okay, and in fact I did ask a math professor about this, and she said it actually means, it's divided by one, or it means 1/100th, okay? The percent sign means 1/100th, okay? And cent, of course, is the origin of the word centimeter, which is 1/100th of a meter, okay? So tuck that in the back of your head, all right? So let's go a little further. They decided that 25 per 1 cent was too much. So they shortened it a little bit, and they did 25 per cent. Okay, and then did the do and the double hash, and there it is still again, 25%. So that's where that came about. And then they shortened it even further. Couple hundred years maybe, I don't know how long it takes, but they shortened it even further. and it became 25 per cent. Is that starting to look a little familiar now? 25%. And so it becomes 25%. That is the origin of percent. Now, you're probably thinking, oh, those lazy people of early Europe and colonial times and stuff like that, oh, they're just so lazy. Well, I beg to differ, because how many people out there in iPhone, Samsung, Droid land will actually write this out? Are y'all ready for this? Laugh out loud. Oh my goodness, how many people will actually write that out? When you're texting with your friends, how many people write out the word laugh out loud? Oh, nobody? Yes. What do y'all do? LOL. I do it too. Why? Because it's time consuming to type out the entire word, just like it's time consuming to write the whole thing out. So they shortened it, and then they shortened it even further, and now it's just this. And so we look at this in today's world, and we're like, what is that thing? Okay, well, what it is, it's used to be this, which before that used to be this, which before that used to be this. And so 25 per 1 cent is 0.25, which is 25 cents. It's 25 cents. That's all this is, 25 cents. Okay? So you don't need to get too wrapped up into thinking about this, because it is what it is. Okay? And that's why the math professor said this is actually, the word cent means 1/100th. Okay? So that's where the divide by 100 comes from. The student just didn't know. And so my questioning the student caused me to question myself, where in the world did this thing right here, where in the world did it come from, which brought about this whole research. Hope y'all enjoyed that. Have a good one.